Okay, hello gang. Today I got another video for you all, and it's about social capital. Now, recently I read this book by Robert Putnam called Bowling Alone, and it is a fantastic book. This video is inspired by that book, and I recommend you all read it. And I think this is like another one of those like secret links that I guess you could say I found. Earlier I made a video on open society, but yeah. So first let's talk about what social capital is. You know what human capital is, right? You know what financial capital is and shit like that. But what is social capital? Social capital is basically things like how much people interact with each other and how much they trust each other. So things like the existence of communal groups, like sports groups, bowling, football, whatever. Things like church attendance and local news, which gives people an avenue for political involvement within their own local community. And that's the key part, local political involvement. Not worrying about what's happening in Israel, Palestine, Russia, Ukraine, although, I mean, that stuff is important too, don't get me wrong. But again, what else is important is what's happening right in front of your feet, right? And another thing is things like parent interconnectedness, how well parents know each other. Think about things like community mothers. If parents know each other a lot, then if you see kids misbehaving, other parents might also correct your kids, right? It takes a village to raise a child. Well, and then, of course, you have things like neighborhood trust as well. When neighbors trust each other, they're more likely to do business with each other. When they trust each other, there's also more safety. People have other people they can rely on. Another one is obviously positive role models. In the book, he talks about things like an old head and community mothers. People who have strong values, who are kind of leaders of the community. Usually they'll attend the church a lot. And they will uphold a standard of virtue, which they will pass on to the next generation. Usually a protege, they find. And with that, you can basically protect and propagate virtues throughout the entire community. And another one is family units. I guess this one's kind of self-explanatory, but one thing a lot of people miss out on is extended family ties as well. Okay, so now enter my little conspiracy. Okay, what is happening and why is it happening? So I think one thing everybody can kind of guess is social capital has been on the decline. And I would argue it is lower than ever, and it is getting lower and lower and lower by the year. And there are a lot of organizations, companies, governmental regimes, and so on who benefit a lot from this. A small majority of people benefit a lot from this, and I'm going to explain why in this video. So first of all, family units are decreasing. Single parenthood is on the rise. Church attendance and religious attendance and communities is decreasing. Communal groups are also decreasing. Loneliness is increasing. Mass surveillance is increasing. Policing and laws are increasing as well. The police nowadays have more powers than ever. Automobile and oil and gas revenue are increasing as well. And quote-unquote degeneracy is increasing as well. I guess you could say this is like a right-wing point or whatever. Things like this, children do not need that kind of stuff. I do believe things like this are destructive to communities. But yeah, so all of this is increasing. The book talks about automobiles and city infrastructure. Another point the book made is media technology, which is also a very important point. Nowadays, people spend a lot of time on their cell phones. And the thing about cell phones is you're getting all of your news from one source, right? Monopolies exist in social media a lot. Social media algorithms can literally decide the next president. And this is not even a conspiracy theory, it's just true. Organizations control what goes in your mind. And so they can control what actions you will take. Yeah, as you can see, social capital is down. And what this allows corporations to do is basically fill in that void. This graph right here is what Open Society by Karl Popper looks like. The disassociation of all, the dissolving of all human groups, right? The right wing wants to increase this and this. The left wing wants to increase this. Both wings want to increase surveillance and just control. The left wing will go things like LGBTQ education, and the right wing will be kind of the anti-education. They'll be like, oh no, sexual education or safe drug consumption or whatever. Right wing will be like anti-drug, increased mass surveillance. Left wing will be like open society as well, increased mass surveillance. No one talks about Edward Snowden. Tesla's, or Elon Musk, this thumbnail has Elon Musk and the Koch brothers. The Koch brothers are basically the oil giants. I could have put George Soros on that thumbnail as well. I just forgot to. George Soros can be included in this as well. Teslas record everything. All cars have location tracking, speed tracking, and just the amount of trackers in your car nowadays is ridiculous. I'll link to a video about it as well. This, believe it or not, is perfect for tracking the shit out of people. And another thing that happens when social capital decreases, as I've spoke about before, is trust, neighborhood trust reduces, which reduces safety and good behavior as well. People trust each other less, they behave less good, okay, and there is just less safety overall. And when safety is low, surveillance is very tempting, which again is why most governmental organizations, most police organizations as well, they actually support the destruction of these things. Why? Because that gives them more power. You have to understand, police departments at the end of the day are departments run by organizations, and everybody wants power, right? Power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely. And you see, social capital, when it exists in high amounts, can actually have many amazing benefits on communities and even countries and nations as a whole. Employment, you can find a job through your contacts. Business deals, and the economy literally just grows. It's also more self-sustaining. You get support and health as well. Instead of taking aspirins from a pharmaceutical company and increasing their profits, just speak to somebody and have better mental health. That's a sentence from a book. Instead of taking 2 aspirins every morning, just talk to me, or something like that. Robert Putnam put the sentence in his book. And one thing I want to make very clear is social capital is something you should care about a lot. Your economic success, your sexual success, your romantic success, and your political success depends on how much social capital you have. It is the one factor that basically bridges everything together. Economic success, well, that's pretty obvious. The more rich and famous people you know, the more you can get a job, right? People don't get jobs because of their double degrees. They get jobs because of who they know. That's why many people tell you to go to universities, because of the networking. Although I think there are other ways to do that. Again, nowadays on the internet, you have a variety of quote-unquote dating movements. You got the red pill. I think there's this other one called the black pill. Then there's the white. I don't know. Your point is, it's a fucking pharmacy, okay? Still no grass, still no psilocybin. It's a fucking pharmacy with all this bullshit. But point is, if you look at people who are pariahs, okay, most of them are extremely social, gregarious people. They have high levels of social capital, high levels of interconnectedness, high levels of contacts. Same thing goes for romantic success and political success as well. And this one, I would argue, is also very important. Most tyrannical governmental organizations, PAP, CCP, or I guess you could say NSA, CIA, what they want to do is they want to destroy the local community, which is mostly things like this, so that local political participation and local political movement stops. You see, things like protests really piss off large companies that want to make a profit. It really pisses off the CIA and the deep state. It really pisses off the PAP as well. It really pisses off the CCP as well, which is why they use a lot of surveillance technologies to basically ban protests. That's what surveillance technologies are used for. They know what people are talking about, and then they kind of predict what they're going to do, and then they just block routes. They send police to block routes. This happens in places like Singapore a lot. China as well. What Apple did is they would give China the contacts of the people who are going to protest, and the Chinese authorities just went and basically arrested them or detained them right before the protest happened to destroy the whole movement. To destroy local political movement, you just destroy the communities. And, as we explained before, because media companies are fully hijacked as well, you just control what goes into people's minds. People don't care about what's happening in their community or outside their front door. They care about what's happening in Israel, Palestine. They care about what's happening in Russia, Ukraine. It just becomes a game of virtue signaling. These are the causes I support. Hence, I have more virtue than you. Okay, no one actually cares about what is happening in front of their own feet. No one is involved with local causes at all. If you look at most fascist or totalitarian or authoritarian societies, local involvement with politics is extremely limited. Speech and discussions are also extremely limited. You are just not allowed to talk about anything, and you don't have anyone to talk about it to. All institutions are controlled by the government. In a place like Singapore brags a lot about religious and racial harmony. But truth be told, all of the institutes in Singapore, such as churches and mosques and whatnot, are essentially controlled by a centralized party. And let's also look at it on a personal level. Nowadays, you have the invention of dating apps, right? Well, why do we have that? Because social capital is actually low. So doing things like finding a partner in your community is essentially being replaced by things like this, right? Sit on your phone and just swipe or whatever. Tinder makes a killing, okay? They are laughing their asses to the bank while you are crying your wallet out, I guess. And basically what I want to do in this video is just highlight the importance of social capital. It not only determines your personal success in virtually all aspects of life, but also your society's success and your country's success as well. Now, don't get me wrong, things like going to the gym and being healthy and all that, they are important. I'm not trying to make some point on, looks don't matter or your degree doesn't matter. Obviously, having technical skill is important. Obviously, looking a certain way helps. Obviously, being articulate and skillful when it comes to giving speeches, things like that help. I'm not trying to dismiss them. And yeah, the same way social capital compensates for a lack of human capital in seeking employment, which again is what the book talks about. The thing social capital can compensate for is really amazing. It can also compensate for things like looks and finding a partner, lol. So if you go out in the real world, guys, if you touch some grass, you will just find opportunities, okay? And circles and ties matter a lot, which is exactly why corporations are trying to destroy them. Remember earlier, I keep talking about individual prosperity, right? Well, when individual prosperity is destroyed, you approach that Animal Farm situation where authorities can control and surveil every aspect of your life. Everything over here, every benefit gets replaced by an inorganic, inefficient, extremely totalitarian system. Local politics, nope, we have an authoritarian government, we have an authoritarian deep state that has ridiculous power and obviously ends up using it for their own gain because power always corrupts. Instead of having safety and good behavior influenced by things like good role models, neighborhood trust, what we have is we have a surveillance state where the police monitor every single action you do. Instead of having a good child upbringing, what we have now is we have just, I guess you could say, leftist degeneracy, lol. Instead of extended families, we have single mother households or even just a brave new world. And yeah, speaking of which, I think that is what the future is going to be. It's going to be a combination of Fahrenheit 451, Brave New World, and 1984. I think that is like the dystopian trifecta, if trifecta is a word. I think it is a word. And yeah, thanks for watching this video. Take it in the sense of personal tips or just society. But yeah, the book Bowling Alone by Robert Putnam is fantastic. I recommend it. And yeah, thank you for watching. Thanks for your time, guys.